The distress signal came through at the worst possible time. Captain Vexler of the research vessel Luminous Dawn was in the middle of examining ancient star charts when the emergency channel crackled to life. His antenna twitched with alarm as he listened to the desperate message from the mining colony on Keth 7. 47 miners were trapped underground. A geological collapse had sealed them in the deep tunnels. Their oxygen would last 3 days at most, maybe less if they panicked. Vexelar's 6 legs trembled as he calculated the numbers. The nearest galactic response unit was 6 days away. Too far, much too far. The colonists would be dead before help arrived. His communications officer, a young Vrex named Ticklet, looked up from her console. Her compound eyes reflected worry. She was new to space work, and this was her first real emergency. "Captain, there is one ship within range," she said quietly. "They could reach Keth 7 in less than 2 days. Vexelar felt his mandibles click nervously. Who? A human cargo ship. The Perseverance. The word human made everyone on the bridge go silent. Humans were new to the galactic community. Only 8 years had passed since first contact. In that short time, they had developed a reputation. A disturbing one. They came from a planet called Earth. To every civilized species in the galaxy, Earth was a nightmare world. The gravity was too strong. The weather was violent and unpredictable. The native creatures were designed to kill and survive in horrible ways. Diseases spread easily. Natural disasters happened constantly. And somehow humans had not just survived on that death world. They had thrived. They had become the dominant species. Other species found humans deeply unsettling. They were too strong, too durable. They healed from injuries that would kill other beings. They could survive on planets that were considered barely habitable. They had forward-facing eyes like predators. Their teeth were designed for tearing meat. Worst of all, they seemed to enjoy danger. They did things for fun that would horrify other species. They jumped out of aircraft. They climbed mountains. They dove deep underwater. They called it recreation. Vexelar had met humans before. He found them polite but deeply strange. They smiled with their teeth showing. They made loud noises that were supposed to be expressions of joy. They touched each other constantly as a form of bonding. But right now, those disturbing humans were the only hope for the trapped miners. "Contact them," Vexelar ordered. "Explain the situation." Ticklet opened the channel. Within seconds, a human face appeared on the screen. Captain Marcus Chen had dark hair and those unsettling forward-facing eyes. He listened to the explanation without interrupting. When Ticklet finished explaining, there was barely a pause. "We accept," Marcus said simply. "Changing course now. We'll be there in 31 hours. The transmission ended before Vexelar could even discuss payment or conditions. The humans just said yes. No negotiation. No questions about danger or reward. Just immediate acceptance. Ticklet looked confused. "Captain, they didn't ask about compensation. They didn't ask about the risk factors. They just agreed." Vexelar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "I noticed. Is that normal for humans?" "I don't know," Vexelar admitted. "But I've heard stories. Humans have a strange code. When someone is in danger, they help. They don't calculate profit. They don't assess risk carefully. They just respond. That sounds insane." "Yes," Vexelar agreed quietly. "It does." Over the next 30 hours, Vexelar monitored the human ship's approach. What he saw disturbed him greatly. The Perseverance was pushing its engines far beyond safe limits. The acceleration was brutal. 4 times the force of normal gravity. 4 gravities would turn most species into liquid paste. Vexelar himself would die instantly under that pressure. His exoskeleton would crack. His organs would fail, but the humans endured it. When Vexelar cautiously asked if they were all right, Marcus responded with something that sent chills through the Vrex captain's body. "It's uncomfortable," Marcus said. "But we'll manage. The miners don't have time for us to take it easy." Uncomfortable. 4 gravities of pressure that would kill most beings, and the humans called it uncomfortable. Ticklet was reading human medical files that were public in the galactic database. Her antennae were vibrating with distress as she read. "Captain, did you know that humans regularly break their own bones during exercise? They call it stress fractures and consider it normal. Their bones grow back stronger." Vexelar said nothing. He had known humans were strange, but the more he learned, the more alien they seemed. "They also have something called adrenaline," Ticklet continued. It's a chemical their bodies produce in dangerous situations. It makes them stronger and faster. It lets them ignore pain. They essentially become more dangerous when threatened. Evolution made them that way, Vexlar said quietly. Their world tried to kill them for millions of years. They adapted. But why didn't they die out? Why didn't they go extinct? Vexlar looked at the young officer. Because they refused to. Humans are stubborn, Ticklet. When their world said die, they said no. And somehow they won. When the Perseverance arrived at Keth 7, the luminous dawn was already in orbit. Vexlar had been monitoring the situation on the ground. It was worse than the initial reports. The gravity on Keth 7 was 1.6 times normal, lethal to most species for extended periods. The atmosphere contained sulfur compounds that were toxic. The temperature at the collapse site was reaching 60 degrees Celsius. The area was still experiencing seismic activity. Vexlar's computer calculated the success probability of any rescue attempt. The number came back at 6%. When Marcus contacted the Luminous Dawn to review the situation, Vexlar prepared himself to explain that the rescue was impossible. That they had come all this way for nothing, that the miners were already dead even if they were still breathing. But when he finished explaining the conditions, Marcus just nodded. Understood, the human said. We'll start preparations immediately. Captain Chen, Vexlar said carefully, I don't think you understand. The conditions are lethal. The probability of success is extremely low. This is a suicide mission, Marcus smiled, that unsettling human expression where they showed their teeth. Captain Vexlar, we're from Earth, lethal is relative. We'll get them out. The transmission ended. Vexlar sat in his command chair, his 6 legs feeling weak. They're going anyway, Ticklet whispered, even though it's impossible. Yes, Vexlar said. They are, because that's what humans do. They look at the impossible and decide to do it anyway. He watched on the monitors as the human rescue team prepared, 6 humans in lightweight exosuits. Compared to the tank-like protective equipment the Vrex would need, the human suits looked flimsy and inadequate. But as Vexlar was learning, appearances were deceiving when it came to humans. They didn't need heavy protection. They were the protection. The human rescue team landed on Keth 7 exactly 31 hours after accepting the mission. Vexlar watched from orbit as their small shuttle touched down near the collapse site. 6 humans emerged from the shuttle. 3 were former miners. 2 were emergency medical technicians. 1 was a structural engineer. They wore lightweight exosuits that enhanced their natural strength, but the suits looked fragile compared to standard rescue equipment. Vexlar had linked his ship's sensors to the human suit cameras. He could see and hear everything. What he witnessed over the next few hours would change how he thought about humans forever. The first thing that disturbed him was how the humans reacted to the danger assessment. Marcus gathered his team and explained the situation. The tunnels were unstable. The air was toxic. The heat was extreme. Seismic sensors showed continuing ground movement. Any rescue attempt could trigger another collapse. The humans listened carefully. Then one of them, a woman named Sarah, laughed. She laughed. Sounds like a Tuesday, she said, still smiling. The other humans made similar comments. They used phrases that the translation software struggled with. A piece of cake. A walk in the park. Just like the Chilean mine rescue. Vexlar didn't understand the references, but the tone was clear. The humans were treating this deadly situation as routine, maybe even enjoyable. Captain, Ticklet whispered on the bridge of the Luminous Dawn. Are they joking? Don't they understand the danger? They understand, Vexlar said quietly. They just don't care the way we do. To them, danger is not a reason to stop. It's just another problem to solve. The humans began preparing their equipment. Vexlar noticed something that made his mandibles click nervously. Among the standard rescue tools were explosives. Explosives. In an unstable tunnel system, the humans were planning to use controlled explosions as part of their rescue plan. That's insane, Ticklet said flatly. Vexlar couldn't disagree. Then he noticed something else that chilled him. The medical technicians were carrying field amputation kits, equipment designed to cut off limbs in emergency situations. The humans discussed these tools casually, like they were normal equipment. Like cutting off body parts was just another standard procedure. What kind of species routinely cut pieces off each other? The rescue team split into 2 groups. 3 humans would enter the tunnels. 3 would remain on the surface as support. Before they began, the humans did something that Vexillar found particularly disturbing. They argued about who would go first into the most dangerous section. They were arguing over who got to risk their life first. They wanted the most dangerous position. They considered it a privilege. Finally, Marcus settled the debate by saying he was the captain and it was his responsibility. The others accepted this reluctantly, as if they had been denied something valuable. "They're competing to face death first," Ticklet said in disbelief. "Captain, what is wrong with them?" "Nothing is wrong with them," Vexillar said slowly. "They're working exactly as they were designed by evolution. On Earth, the ones who ran from danger died. The ones who faced it survived. So humans learned to run toward danger instead of away from it." The 3-person rescue team descended into the collapsed tunnels. Marcus led the way, followed by Sarah and another human named Dimitri. Vexillar watched through their suit cameras. The tunnels were nightmare spaces. Barely enough room to move, sharp rocks everywhere. The temperature was reading 57 degrees Celsius. The air monitors showed toxic compounds. The humans moved steadily forward. Their suits beeped warnings constantly. High temperature alerts, structural instability warnings, toxic air notifications. The humans acknowledged each alert and continued. They reached a section where the tunnel had partially collapsed. The opening was too small for a normal being to pass through. Marcus examined it for a moment, then began forcing his body through the gap. Vexillar heard bones creaking. The suit sensors spiked with damage warnings. The opening was compressing Marcus's rib cage. Any normal species would have had their internal organs crushed. Marcus grunted with effort. "Bit tight," he said calmly. Then he was through. Sarah and Dimitri followed. All 3 humans squeezed through spaces that should have been impossible to navigate. Their bones flexed. Their bodies compressed. The suits registered damage after damage. The humans kept moving. "How are they still alive?" Ticklet asked. "Those warnings would indicate fatal injuries for any other species." "Human bones are different," Vexillar explained, reading from the database. "They're designed to bend without breaking, and if they do break, they heal. Their entire skeletal system is built for surviving impacts and pressure that would destroy us." 2 hours into the rescue, the humans reached the trapped miners. The colonists were Velix, a fragile aquatic species. They wore special environment suits to survive on land. The collapse had damaged several suits and the Velix were barely conscious from carbon dioxide buildup. When the Velix saw the humans, they panicked. Through their fading consciousness, all they saw were large bipedal predators with forward-facing eyes and strong jaws filled with teeth. One of the Velix died instantly. "Heart failure from pure fear," Sarah cursed quietly. She immediately began working on the other Velix, trying to stabilize them before they died of shock too. What Vexillar witnessed next made him feel physically ill. Sarah pulled out medical equipment. She inserted tubes down the Velix throats to help them breathe. She injected them with stimulants to keep them conscious. She used needles to pierce their suits and deliver medication directly into their bodies. To the Velix, it must have seemed like torture. This predator creature was cutting into them, pushing foreign objects inside them, injecting them with unknown chemicals. But Sarah was saving their lives. "Captain," Ticklet said weakly, "is she healing them or hurting them?" "I can't tell." "She's healing them," Vexillar said, though he felt the same horror. "Human medicine is aggressive. They cut into each other to heal. They inject chemicals. They replace damaged parts. To them, it's normal. To us, it looks like violence." As Sarah worked on stabilizing the Velix, the tunnel system groaned ominously. Marcus immediately ordered everyone to prepare for movement. Another collapse was coming. The secondary collapse hit hard. Rocks fell from the ceiling. One massive boulder, easily weighing several tons, crashed down directly on Dimitri. Vexillar's computer calculated the impact force. No being could survive that. Dimitri should have been crushed into paste. Then Vexillar heard something that made his blood run cold. Dimitri was laughing. "Well, this is a bit of a pickle," the human said from under the boulder. He was alive, trapped under multi-ton weight that should have killed him instantly, and he was making jokes. Marcus and Sarah immediately moved to help. They pulled out plasma cutters and began cutting into the rock. When that wasn't fast enough, they used their exosuits and their own muscles to lift. Vexillar watched 2 humans lift a boulder that weighed more than a small transport vehicle. The exosuits provided hydraulic assistance, but the calculations showed the humans themselves were providing 40% of the lifting force with pure muscle. They freed Dmitri. Both of his legs were crushed. Bones were visibly broken. Blood seeped through his suit. Sarah immediately injected him with something. Dmitri's face went from pain to calm in seconds. "That'll do," Dmitri said. He stood up on his crushed legs. He stood up. "We need to move," Marcus said. "The whole section is unstable now. We carry everyone out. Now." The 3 humans began gathering the 47 Valix colonists. Each human carried 7 to 8 adult Valix, weight that would require industrial lifting equipment for any other species. The exosuits helped, but the calculations showed the humans were personally bearing hundreds of kilograms each, and they were carrying this weight through unstable tunnels, through tight spaces, through extreme heat. Dmitri was walking on broken legs, carrying 8 Valix colonists and still managing to joke with his teammates. "Captain," Tikalit said, her voice shaking, "what are they?" Vexlar didn't answer immediately. He was watching the humans fight their way back through impossible conditions, carrying the people they had come to save. Finally, he spoke. "They're Deathworlders, Tikalit. They come from a planet that tried to kill them every single day. So they learned to be unkillable. They learned to turn pain into motivation. They learned that impossible just means difficult. Are we safe around them?" Vexlar watched the humans carry the colonists toward safety, refusing to leave anyone behind, refusing to acknowledge their own injuries. "Yes," he said quietly, "as long as we're not in danger. Because they don't hurt the helpless. They save them, even when it should be impossible, even when it costs them everything. That's what makes them truly terrifying. They're monsters who chose to be heroes." 14 hours after entering the collapsed tunnels, the humans emerged. All 47 Velix colonists were alive. Well, 46. One had died from shock before Sarah could stabilize them. Vexlar had watched the entire rescue through the suit cameras. What should have taken 4 days with 50 specialized personnel had taken 3 humans 14 hours. But the cost was becoming clear. As the humans removed their helmets on the surface, Vexlar finally saw the true damage. Marcus had a dislocated shoulder that made his arm hang at an unnatural angle. Sarah had severe burns across her arms and face from when a plasma cutter had malfunctioned. Dimitri's legs were obviously broken, the bones visible through torn skin in places. All 3 humans were dehydrated. Their faces were pale. They moved slowly, carefully, like people at the edge of collapse. Medical scans showed torn muscles, damaged joints, internal bleeding, and a list of injuries that should have left them unconscious or dead. They were still standing. "Medical teams are standing by," Vexlar transmitted to Marcus. "We'll transport you to the Luminous Dawn immediately." "Negative," Marcus said. His voice was tired but firm. "We'll handle our own medical care. Transport the Velix to your ship. They need proper treatment. Captain Chen, you need medical attention. Your injuries are severe." "We're fine," Marcus insisted. "This is what we have medical supplies for." What happened next would haunt Vexlar for months. The humans refused evacuation to proper medical facilities. Instead, they opened their own medical kits and began treating each other right there on the surface of Keth 7. Vexlar couldn't look away. It was horrifying, but he had to witness it. Sarah injected herself with something she called a nanite cocktail, tiny machines that would repair her damaged tissue from the inside. Then she pulled out a medical laser and began cauterizing her own burns. Vexlar heard her scream. A short, sharp sound of agony. Then she gritted her teeth and continued burning her own flesh closed. "Stop watching," one of his crew members begged. "Captain, please." "I can't see this," but Vexlar kept watching. He had to understand. He had to know what humans were capable of. Dmitri was next. The other 2 humans held him down while Sarah worked on his legs. She injected him with powerful painkillers. Then she manually set his broken bones. Dmitri screamed. The sound was terrible, but he didn't try to escape. He just gripped the ground and let his teammates break and reset his bones into proper alignment. When they finished, they injected him with something called synthetic bone matrix. Dmitri explained through gritted teeth that it would help his bones heal faster. In a few weeks, he'd be fine. A few weeks. Injuries that would permanently disable most species and humans expected to heal in weeks. Finally, Marcus. His dislocated shoulder needed to be reset. Sarah and Dmitri grabbed him. Then, with a single brutal movement, they yanked his arm back into the socket. Marcus screamed. The sound echoed across the barren landscape. Then he flexed his arm, testing it. Good as new, he said, though his face was pale with pain. Ticklet was crying. The young Vrex officer had her face hidden in her manipulator limbs. "They're monsters," she whispered. "They hurt each other to heal. They break themselves and put the pieces back together." "What kind of species does that?" "A species from a death world," Vexlar said quietly. "Where survival meant enduring pain that would kill us. Where healing required violence. They're not monsters, Ticklet, they're survivors. And survival made them into something we can barely understand." The Valix colonists were transported to the luminous dawn for proper medical care. As they recovered, they told their stories of the rescue. What Vexlar heard disturbed him deeply. The Valix described the humans as demons, creatures from nightmares. When Sarah had intubated them and injected them with stimulants, they thought they were being tortured. When the humans had carried them through the tunnels, the Valix thought they were being taken somewhere to be eaten. One Valix refused to let the human medics examine him afterward. He preferred to risk infection rather than let those predators touch him again. They had been saved, but they were traumatized by their saviors. Vexlar found himself in a difficult position. He had witnessed something incredible. 3 humans had accomplished the impossible. They had saved 46 lives against overwhelming odds, but the methods they used were horrifying to watch. The way they treated injuries was violent. The way they pushed through pain was unnatural. The way they approached danger was insane, and yet they had succeeded. The rescue footage had been automatically transmitted to galactic communication networks. Within hours, the entire galactic community was watching the humans work. Reactions varied wildly. Some species were amazed. Others were terrified. Military commanders saw potential weapons. Medical professionals saw new possibilities. Ethicists saw moral questions with no easy answers. Everyone agreed on one thing. Humans were not like other species. Calls began coming in from across the galaxy. Some wanted humans restricted. Others wanted them studied. Several species proposed new regulations. A few wanted humans banned from certain sectors. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The topic was simple but loaded with meaning. The human question Vexlar received a formal summons. As the senior officer who had witnessed the rescue firsthand, his testimony would be crucial. Before leaving for the council chambers, he contacted Marcus one final time. The human captain was back on the Perseverance, preparing to resume his cargo route. "Captain Chen, the Galactic Council is convening to discuss humanity's place in our community. There are many who fear your species, who see you as dangerous. What would you say to them?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "We are dangerous," he said. "Earth made us that way. Every day on our world was a fight to survive. We learned to endure pain. We learned to push past limits. We learned to face death and refuse to blink." He paused, then continued. "But here's what they need to understand. We didn't choose to be like this. Our world forced us to adapt or die. We adapted, but we also learned something else. We learned to protect each other, to save each other, to refuse to leave anyone behind. Yes, we're dangerous, but we're dangerous to danger. We fight the things that other species run from, and we do it because someone has to, because leaving people to die is not acceptable. Not to us. Never to us." Vexlar absorbed those words. They rang with truth. "One more question," Vexlar said. "Would you do it again? Knowing the cost? Knowing how much it hurt?" Marcus smiled that unsettling human smile. "In a heartbeat. Every time. That's what makes us human. We don't calculate whether saving lives is worth the cost. We just save them. The cost is irrelevant." The transmission ended. Vexlar sat in his command chair, thinking about what he had witnessed and what he had learned. Humans were terrifying. Their methods were brutal. Their tolerance for pain was unnatural. Their approach to danger was insane. But they were also heroes. Real heroes. The kind who ran into burning buildings when everyone else ran out. Who faced impossible odds without hesitation. Who valued other lives above their own comfort and safety. Ticklet approached him quietly. "Captain, what will you tell the council?" Vexlar looked at the young officer. She was still troubled by what she had witnessed. Still trying to understand these strange Deathworlders who had joined their peaceful galaxy. "I'll tell them the truth," Vexlar said. "That humans are dangerous. That they're violent and reckless and push themselves beyond any reasonable limit. that their medical practices look like torture, and their approach to danger seems suicidal. He paused, then finished. And I'll tell them that we need humans. Because when the impossible happens, when disaster strikes, when lives hang in the balance, we need beings who look at the impossible and refuse to accept it. We need someone who will go into hell itself to bring people back. And that's what humans do. That's who they are, so we should accept them. Despite how terrifying they are, we should accept them because of how terrifying they are, Vexillar corrected. They're terrifying in the best possible way. They terrify death itself. And maybe that's exactly what the universe needs. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive structure. It floated in neutral space, far from any single species' territory. Here, representatives from thousands of worlds gathered to make decisions that affected the entire known galaxy. Today, the chamber was packed. Every species wanted to be present for this debate. The human question had become the most important topic in recent memory. Vexillar stood in the witness section, his 6 legs feeling weak under the weight of thousands of eyes. He had prepared his testimony carefully, but he knew this would be difficult. The council elder spoke first. He was a Keldari, an ancient species known for wisdom and caution. His 3 heads moved in unison as he addressed the chamber. We gather to discuss humanity, a species that has shown remarkable capabilities, but also disturbing tendencies. We must decide if they belong in our peaceful community, or if they pose a threat that must be contained. The debate began immediately. Species after species stood to voice their concerns. A Threxian ambassador spoke with fear in her voice. We have watched the recordings from Keth 7. These humans show no normal fear response. They laugh in the face of death. They injure themselves and continue functioning. This is not normal behavior. This is aberrant psychology. A military commander from the Zaxian Federation agreed. Their combat potential is obvious. Each human is worth 10 of our soldiers. 20. Maybe more. If they ever decided to wage war, we would struggle to stop them. A medical ethicist from the Plenary Collective was disturbed by different aspects. Their medical practices involve cutting into living tissue, breaking bones, injecting foreign substances. They perform what we would consider torture as routine healthcare. How can we trust beings with such a fundamentally different understanding of healing? The concerns piled up. Humans were too strong, too resilient, too willing to take risks, too comfortable with violence and pain, too alien in their thinking. Finally, it was time for Vexillar to testify. He approached the speaking platform, feeling the weight of the galaxy's attention. Honorable Council, he began. I have witnessed humanity in action. I have seen what they can do, and I will not lie to you about what I saw. He took a breath, then continued. Humans are dangerous. They are violent. They approach problems with methods that horrify us. When they heal, it looks like harm. When they work, it looks like self-destruction. When they save lives, it can look like taking them. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Vexillar raised a manipulator limb for silence. But here is what you must understand. Humans come from a world called Earth. To us, it is a nightmare planet. The gravity crushes. The weather kills. The native life is designed to survive through violence. Diseases spread easily. Disasters happen constantly. He projected images of Earth onto the chamber displays. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, predators with enormous teeth, diseases that killed millions. The assembled species gasped in horror. This is where humans evolved, Vexillar said. Every single day their world tried to kill them. For millions of years, they faced constant danger. They didn't become violent and dangerous by choice. They became that way because anything else meant extinction. He showed footage from the rescue. The humans forcing themselves through impossible spaces, lifting impossible weights, working through injuries that should have been fatal. Look at what they did, Vexillar said. 3 humans saved 46 lives in conditions that our best models said were impossible to survive. They did this not for profit, not for glory. They did it because people needed help. The council elder leaned forward. Captain Vexler, are you saying we should overlook their dangerous nature because they occasionally do good? No, Vexler said firmly. I'm saying their dangerous nature is precisely why we need them. The galaxy is not always safe. Disasters happen. Emergencies occur. When those moments come, we need beings who don't calculate risk versus reward. We need beings who just act. Before anyone could respond, a new voice spoke. The human ambassador, Maria Okonkwo, stepped forward. She had been sitting quietly in the observer section, but now she requested permission to address the council. The elder considered, then nodded. The council recognizes Ambassador Okonkwo. Maria stood at the speaking platform. She was calm, composed, but there was steel in her voice when she spoke. Honorable Council, I have listened to your concerns. Many of them are valid. We are different from you. We do come from a harsh world. We do approach problems in ways that seem violent or reckless to you. She paused, looking around the chamber. But let me explain something about humanity. We didn't choose to be this way. Earth made us. Every human alive today exists because our ancestors refused to die, refused to give up, refused to accept that survival was impossible. You see our pain tolerance as aberrant. To us, it's survival. You see our medical practices as violent. To us, they're necessary. You see our willingness to risk our lives as reckless. To us, it's courage. The elder spoke again. Ambassador, many here fear that your species is incompatible with civilized society, that your violent nature will eventually lead to conflict. Maria's response was direct. You're right to fear us. We are dangerous. But you're wrong about what we're dangerous to. We're not dangerous to peaceful beings. We're dangerous to threats, to disasters, to the impossible situations that everyone else runs from. She activated a display showing data. Since joining the galactic community 8 years ago, humans have responded to 147 emergency situations, mining accidents, ship malfunctions, natural disasters, medical emergencies. We have a perfect response record. We have never refused a call for help. We have never abandoned a rescue because it was too dangerous. More data appeared. In that same period, humans have been involved in exactly 0 unprovoked conflicts. 0 acts of aggression against peaceful species. 0 violations of galactic law. She let that sink in. We are violent when we need to be. We are aggressive when facing danger. But we have never, not once, turned that violence against innocent beings. Because that's not who we are. We fight threats, we protect the weak, we save the helpless. A voice called out from the chamber. It was Ticklet, the young Vrex officer who had witnessed the rescue. She had been granted observer status, and now she spoke up nervously. Ambassador, I have a question. I watched the rescue on Keth 7. I saw the humans work and I was terrified. Not of the humans themselves, but of what they represented. You're right that you're dangerous. But you're dangerous to danger itself. That's what scares me. How do we understand beings who run toward death instead of away from it? Maria smiled gently. You understand by recognizing that fear doesn't control us. We feel fear, Officer Ticklet. Every human in that rescue mission was afraid. Afraid of dying. Afraid of failure. Afraid of pain. But we learned something on Earth. We learned that feeling fear and letting fear win are 2 different things. We feel the fear. We acknowledge it. Then we do what needs to be done anyway. Because 47 beings needed rescue. Because someone had to go get them. Because that's what you do when people need help. Ticklet processed this. Then she spoke again, her voice stronger. Honorable Council, I request permission to present my own data. The elder seemed surprised but nodded. Proceed. Ticklet's antenna vibrated nervously as she displayed her research. I have been studying human emergency response patterns since the Keth 7 incident. What I found is remarkable. Data filled the chamber displays. Humans have the highest rescue success rate of any known species, 100% when physically possible. They have never abandoned a rescue due to danger levels. Not once. Not ever. She showed more data. But here is what is most remarkable. In human history, there are thousands of documented cases of humans sacrificing themselves for strangers, running into burning buildings, diving into dangerous waters, facing armed threats, all to save people they had never met. Ticklet looked around the chamber. Most species help family, some help friends, a few help their own species. But humans regularly risk death for complete strangers from other species. This is unprecedented in galactic history. She took a breath, then made her conclusion. Yes, humans are dangerous. Yes, their methods are disturbing. Yes, they are fundamentally different from us, but I propose that this is exactly what the galaxy needs. We have built a peaceful civilization by avoiding danger, by calculating risks, by being cautious and careful. These are good traits, they have served us well. But they have also made us vulnerable. When real danger comes, we have no defense except to run or wait for help. Humans don't run. They don't wait. They fight. And they fight for others, not just themselves. That makes them terrifying, but it also makes them invaluable. Ticklet's voice grew stronger. I vote that we accept humans fully into the galactic community, not despite their dangerous nature, but because of it. Because when disaster strikes, when the impossible happens, when lives are at stake, we need beings who look at death and refuse to blink. We need humans. Silence filled the chamber. Then slowly others began to speak in agreement. A Kelvin station master stood. Last year, a human engineer stayed aboard my station during a reactor breach. Everyone else evacuated. She stayed behind and fixed the problem, absorbing lethal doses of radiation. She survived somehow. She saved 8,000 lives. 6 months passed after the council vote. The galaxy adapted to having humans as full members of the community. It wasn't always easy. Humans remained strange and unsettling to most species. Their forward-facing predator eyes, their tolerance for pain, their casual attitude toward danger. These things didn't change, but something else was changing. When emergencies happened, the first call was always to the nearest human ship. Human emergency response teams became the most requested service in the galaxy. Human rescue protocols were being studied and adapted by other species. The Perseverance continued its cargo routes, but now Marcus and his crew carried additional emergency equipment. They had become unofficial first responders for their sector of space. The Luminous Dawn had been officially assigned as their observation and support vessel. Vexlar and his crew now traveled with the humans, learning from them, documenting their methods and providing assistance when needed. Ticklet had requested transfer to the assignment permanently. She wanted to understand humans better. She wanted to learn their courage. On this particular day, they were approaching the Kelvin Nebula, a beautiful but dangerous region of space known for its unpredictable energy patterns. The Perseverance was delivering construction materials to a new research station. The distress call came without warning. A passenger liner had suffered a catastrophic engine failure. It was caught in the nebula's gravity well, being pulled toward a neutron star. Over 300 civilians on board, mostly families, children. The liner had maybe 2 hours before the tidal forces ripped it apart. Standard galactic emergency response teams were 4 hours away. Too far, much too far. Vexlar received the distress call at the same moment Marcus did. He watched the human captain's face carefully, wondering what he would see. What he saw was that same expression he had witnessed 6 months ago. Determination, focus, and yes, that slight edge of excitement that still unsettled him. Marcus didn't hesitate. This is the cargo vessel Perseverance responding to distress call. We're changing course. ETA 45 minutes. The liner's captain responded with clear relief in his voice. Perseverance, this is Captain Relvok of the liner Star of Peace. Thank the cosmos you're human. We have 327 passengers. Engines are completely dead. Life support failing. We need immediate evacuation. Marcus was already calculating. Understood. We have cargo capacity for 300 passengers if we jettison our current load. We'll need to make multiple trips for the rest. There isn't time for multiple trips, Relvok said, his voice cracking. The gravitational stress is increasing. The hull won't hold for more than 90 minutes. Silence on the communication channel. Vexlar watched Marcus think. The math was simple and brutal. They couldn't save everyone in time. They would have to choose who to leave behind. Then Marcus spoke again. Captain Relvok, we're going to save all of them. Every single one. Here's what we're going to do. What followed was the most audacious rescue plan Vexillar had ever heard. The Perseverance would jettison all cargo. Then they would dock with the liner. Using the cargo ship's engines and the liner's remaining structural integrity, they would create a temporary propulsion system. They would push the liner away from the neutron star while simultaneously evacuating passengers. It required precise timing, perfect coordination, and it would put the Perseverance at severe risk. The gravitational forces would strain both ships. One wrong calculation and both vessels would be destroyed. "Captain Chen," Vexillar transmitted, "that plan has a very low probability of success. The gravitational stress on both ships will be extreme." "I know," Marcus said calmly, "but it's the only way to save everyone. So we're doing it." Tiklit was monitoring the human crew's communications. She translated for Vexillar. "Captain, you should hear what they're saying to each other." Vexillar listened. The human crew was making jokes. Actual jokes. They were about to attempt an impossible rescue that might kill them all, and they were laughing about it. Sarah's voice came through. "Remember that time we evacuated the mining colony in that ion storm? This is like that, but with more gravity and less lightning," Dmitri laughed. "My legs are finally healed from last time. Let's not break anything today, yeah?" Marcus chuckled. "No promises, but we'll try." "They're insane," one of Vexillar's crew members whispered. "No," Tiklit said softly. "They're human. This is what they do." The Perseverance approached the stricken liner at maximum safe speed. Actually beyond maximum safe speed. The humans were pushing their engines hard. Docking in the gravitational turbulence was nearly impossible. The computer calculated a 3% success rate. Marcus took manual control and brought the ships together through sheer skill and determination. The docking clamps locked. The Perseverance's engines fired at full power, fighting the neutron star's gravity. The human crew began evacuating passengers. 327 beings needed to be moved from one ship to another, quickly, efficiently, while both ships were being torn apart by tidal forces. Vexillar watched through monitoring systems. The humans worked like a perfect machine. Sarah and the medical team triaged injured passengers. Dmitri and the engineering crew guided people through the connecting passage. Marcus coordinated everything while simultaneously piloting both ships. They were doing the impossible. Again. But the stress was showing. Structural alerts were screaming. The docking clamps were failing. The Perseverance's engines were overheating. 200 passengers transferred. 250. 300, only 27 left. But the liner's hull was cracking. It wouldn't hold much longer. "All passengers across," Dmitri reported. "Wait, negative. We have one more. A child was hiding in a cargo bay. We just found her." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Get her. Now." "The docking clamps won't hold," Sarah warned. "If we wait, we all die." "Then we better be fast," Marcus said. "Dmitri, I'm coming to help. Everyone else, prepare to undock the moment we're across." Vexillar watched Marcus and Dmitri rush back into the dying liner. The hull was screaming, metal tearing, atmosphere venting. The ship had minutes at most. They found the child. A small Threxian girl, maybe 6 years old in her species terms. She was terrified, hiding under cargo containers. Dmitri reached her first. He spoke gently even as the ship disintegrated around them. "Hey there, little one. My name's Dmitri. This is Marcus. We're here to get you somewhere safe. Can you come with us?" The girl looked at these large predator beings with their forward-facing eyes and sharp teeth. She should have been terrified. But something in Dmitri's voice and Marcus's calm presence made her trust them. She reached out. Dmitri picked her up gently and they ran. The docking passage was collapsing. They could see it buckling, twisting. In seconds it would tear apart completely. Marcus went first, clearing debris. Dmitri followed, protecting the child. They moved as fast as physics allowed, faster than should be possible. They made it through just as the passage exploded behind them. The docking clamps failed. The liner began its final death spiral toward the neutron star, but everyone was safe. All 327 passengers were aboard the Perseverance. The cargo ship's engines strained, but they pulled away from the gravity well, slowly, painfully, but successfully. Vexillar released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. They did it again. How do they keep doing this? Tiklit was watching the humans through the monitors. They were tired, exhausted. But they were checking on passengers, making sure everyone was okay, distributing emergency supplies. The small Threxian girl was still in Dimitri's arms. She had fallen asleep there, feeling safe with the large human who had rescued her. That's how they do it, Ticklet said softly. They don't think about themselves. They don't calculate odds. They just see people who need help and they help. It's that simple and that complicated. Vexlar contacted Marcus. Captain Chen, on behalf of the galactic community, thank you. You saved 327 lives today. Marcus looked tired but satisfied. Just doing our job, Captain Vexlar. Nothing special. Nothing special. They had just accomplished another impossible rescue, and they considered it routine. Later, as both ships traveled to the nearest station for repairs and passenger transfer, Vexlar found himself thinking about humanity's place in the galaxy. 6 months ago, many species had feared humans, wanted them restricted or studied or contained. Now they were the first ones everyone called when disaster struck. Human emergency response teams were being established across the galaxy. Human training protocols were being taught to other species. Human courage was inspiring others to be braver. The galaxy had survived for thousands of years before humans arrived. But now Vexlar couldn't imagine it without them. Captain, Ticklet said, interrupting his thoughts. The Perseverance is receiving another distress call. A medical emergency on a research station. They're asking if the humans can respond. Vexlar wasn't surprised. This was becoming normal. Humans responding to emergencies. Humans saving lives. Humans doing the impossible. What did Captain Chen say? Ticklet smiled. She had learned to recognize that human expression now. He said yes immediately. They're already changing course, and he's making jokes with his crew about it. Vexlar felt something he never expected to feel about humans. Not fear, not horror, not even just respect. He felt grateful.